Welcome into the Backroads Bill podcast. I'm Ben, and this week we are talking to Sheri and Jay from the Beauty of the Backcountry YouTube channel. We had the pleasure of having them on. Not the first YouTubers that we've had on this podcast before that love to share their adventures online through the YouTube as a platform. We just had Curtis from Not So Epic Adventure on a couple of months ago. It feels like yesterday, but it was a couple of months ago that we had him on. And just like Curtis, Sheri and Jay do a great job of going out on these adventures, documenting them, packaging them, and then releasing them out into the world. They've built up themselves a bit of a following, which is very difficult to do. And probably the coolest thing of this whole conversation that we had with them was the fact that Jay writes and composes and records his own music that they use for these videos, which is pretty unique. Not many people do that. It's usually they go to a stock site or they find music somewhere, but Jay, being a trade musician, actually writes his own music, which was a really kind of cool story for him to tell, and one of the small little tidbits that we get into in this episode. But before we do need to thank today's lead sponsor, Canoe.
At Agnico Eagle, we are committed to being a trusted community partner, focusing our efforts on building a local economy that lasts for generations. Our careers offer the flexibility and ample downtime needed to find lifelong balance. We strive to be a good neighbor, investing in our people and their future, not just because we operate here, but because this is home. We make mining work.
So today on the podcast, we are pleased to be joined by a couple of people who have made their, bread and butter, I guess you could say. I don't even know if that's the right saying. It's a bit late in the day. But they've done a great job building up their YouTube channel. We have Sheri Tuck and Jay Case from the Beauty of the Backcountry. Thanks so much, and welcome into the Backroads Bill podcast.
Thanks so much for having us.
Thank you.
And I'm glad Sheri wore that shirt, because they are a couple. And you know, that's one of the things, Ben, and for the viewers and listeners of the Backroads Bill podcast, it's about, I think you can put yourself into everything they do. And, you know, I've got some other things that I'm going to say about Beauty of the Backcountry, but they're out there in Northern Ontario, off the back roads, into the backcountry, doing adventures that we all can do, and on all four seasons, by the way, too. And I just wanted to get started with how you met and got together with regards to your first adventure, because, you know, I often say for relationships, if you can survive a camping trip, your relationship's going to survive for a little while. So, but both of you can say you can comment on how that started.
That's fair. So we work together. We work in a design firm, and we met at work. We've been together for 11 years now. And we started out actually backpacking and doing the Lake Superior Coastal Trail. And then that just kind of morphed into canoe tripping. And we just keep learning and learning more and more and exploring more and more.
Yeah, so our very first foray into camping was the Lake Superior Coastal Trail, and anybody who's done that trail knows it's no joke. And we were able to remain a couple after those trips. So
there you go. It's a proven fact that if you can survive the coastal trail, and of course the coastal trail in Puckasaw. But you know, one of the things I like about your videos too is the natural banter that you both have back and forth, and you can't script that, can you?
No, you can't. And sometimes I find it difficult pulling Sheri words out of my darling partner before she's had her first coffee, and it's just me talking all the time. Like, you have no idea how much edit of me talking to the camera gets left on the cutting room floor, so to speak. And Sheri rolling her eyes at me.
Well, some of them, I bet you, she was rolling her eyes. Maybe that didn't get cut out was the part on her birthday where you're in the cabin and you wanted to make sure she was alive the next day. It was so cold. People should chop into that one. Tell us a little about that. That, I know it's a kind of a secret where the cabin is, but both of you look kind of cold in that sort of environment that winter.
Oh gosh. Do you mean our cabin?
Yeah. I think that's the one.
That's the one that we came up after dark. So
Yeah.
because the sun goes down here about 2 p.m., I think, in midwinter. So it was about minus 25 or something like that. So it was fairly cold. And we made our way up to the cabin in pitch dark. It's about a 3 or 4 kilometer hike through the snow with no tracks, no nothing. So it was arduous. And then once we got to the cabin, Sheri was worried that we might not make her through the night.
Yeah. And I'm not sure if you've been to a cabin in like the fall or winter, but it takes a little bit to warm them up. And when you first get there, they're pretty damp and cold.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was pretty cold.
I had to fight pretty hard to keep that in the film, Bill, if you can imagine.
Yeah, you know, I mean, you can sense things, you know. You can sense some things, but you embarked on this like 4 years ago. You got quite a following, as Ben said. And you've been to so many places that I've been to. I just want to, have you ever taken any inspiration or ideas from Backroads Bill?
Well, we read your column on Sioux Today here at Village Media all the time. So yeah, we've often said, "Ooh, this is a fun spot. We should go." And then we start researching down the rabbit holes. You know, so often they're local to not just you guys are over in North Bay. We're in Sault Ste. Marie. And there's so much beauty in between there. So yeah, we always use Backroads Bill, especially for the ice caves. That was a really good article, we thought.
Well, thanks. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I just want to say I did watch your Bud Train video podcast, and we were hoping to take the Bud Train this year. It didn't work out because the lakes were still frozen up in Wabakimi, but we're still hoping to catch that train. So
well, you will.
That was inspiring.
That's another thing that I'm trying to convince Sheri is a good idea is winter camping in Wabakimi. So we're still planning on the Bud car. Our ice out trip this year was to be Wabakimi again. We just fell in love with it last year. It was our first time up, and our outfitter, we use Mattice Lake Outfitters, Don, and he's just great, Don Elliott. And so we've been in touch for a couple of months, and he was like, I don't know, it's a real tough winter. Last winter when we did our ice out trip, the ice went out on Wednesday, and we showed up and paddled on the Friday. So we got really, really lucky. But this year, I called him on the Thursday, and he said, now you might as well stay home. And I said, we're not staying home, Don. We're not coming to you, but we're not staying home. We got this holiday. We're going.
Well, Wabakimi is one of my favorites because the Hermit of Whitewater Lake, the guy who invented the ballpark pen, and we flew in. Same thing. It's during COVID. We were the first flight in, and no one was in there. But I also hearkened back to Les Stroud and Survivor Men because he did the video Solitudes with his wife at the time, and where they went to Wabakimi and did the Solitudes video. And before that, I was probably one of the first people to do a story on Les and actually trained him in navigation before he became Survivor Men. But anyway, Wabakimi is one of those places. But you've been to the French River, Killarney, all over the place, the Steel River. Tell us one of your favorites. Like when you look back, and then of course we're going to ask you both, you know, where are you going this year? But what was one of your favorites and why? Because the other thing I noticed in the videos, there's the camping tips, and the other one I watched just recently when you throw the bag and there's your campsite, right? That's your tent site. I love that. It was kind of spontaneous, but there's camping tips and cooking, and again, when I look at them, I can say I can envision myself or anyone I may be with at the time being in the places that you're being. But what are some of your favorites and why?
What do you think, Shess?
Oh, okay. I would have to say, they're all so good. Killarney was beautiful, and we saw the La Cloche Mountains, and that was beautiful to visit. But my absolute favorite, other than Lake Superior, is French River. The French River just every time gets me. It's so beautiful there.
Yeah, we actually had a bit of a tradition where we would go on Sheri's birthday to the French River with some friends and paddle sections of the Voyageur channel and
Celebrate Thanksgiving.
in a nice sideways snowstorm, which was always fun to do. I'm going to say my favorite, and it's probably recency bias, but is the Algoma Headwaters. It's absolutely magical. Some of the oldest growth virgin forest we still have remaining in Ontario. And it's just a magical place. When we went 4 years ago, this was our very first trip that we ever did, extended canoe trip. So we went for 8 days on a lost canoe route that at that time was definitely still a lost route. Nothing was flagged. There were barely any campsites. But the immense beauty of these forests that you just can't put it into words and you can't capture it on film. But we just returned this spring to do that, and we're finishing up editing the video. I'm not sure when this airs, but it should air. Our video should come out about before the end of this month, June. And we just loved it. They've improved, I say improved, they've added signage to the portages and to the campsites and stuff like that, and even maintained some of them. So that's, I think, a good thing to open up to more people. But there will be more traffic in there. We didn't see anyone, obviously, when we were in there. But yeah, that would be my favorite. Pristine lakes, great fishing, beautiful scenery, and just amazing old trees.
And you know, that's the thing. There's so many places, too many places to go, and not enough time. Where are you going this year? What's on the list?
So next weekend, we're doing a trip on the Spanish River.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're sticking to corridors of old growth forest in the Huron watershed, I guess, for spring. And so Spanish River, we're also paddling up on Lake Superior through the Gargantua Islands area. And
the Goulet River.
Oh, the Goulet River.
The Goulet River, which is local to Sault Ste. Marie.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, another old growth forest area.
Now, you know what the ochre mine on the islands offside of the Gargantua Road. Do you know that ochre mine? It's the same ochre mine.
No.
Okay, well, that'll be something you'll want to go to, that ochre mine, because it's the same one as on the Mattawa River. In fact, when I first went there and went inside the cave, it looks, the outline looks exactly the same as the one on the Mattawa River, but it's on one of the islands, and that's one of the two most important sources of ochre. Of course, it became a prized trade item. But as soon as you said that, every time you say something, it's exciting me to know about, you know, because and that's another thing. I mean, there's just too many places. And you started out on the coastal trail and all along Lake Superior. You know, in my lifetime, I would say that I probably have not missed going up to Lake Superior every single year to do something, whether it's just a day trip. But what's your impression of, I try to explain Ontario to people, it's Lake Superior is on its own. So tell us about what you think about that when you try to describe the beauty of Lake Superior.
Well, I'm from Southern Ontario originally. I moved up to Sault Ste. Marie about 25 years ago, and I've never wanted to go back to Southern Ontario. So just the beauty of Lake Superior and the rock cliffs around the area are just, first of all, awe-inspiring. Like, you're just so awestruck. But just the nature is so calming also. But Lake Superior also is very cold. Jay will say it's not. He swims in it. I do not. But it's immense. And we've paddled on it, and just the power of that lake, like even just on a calm day, the swells are so large. So it's a very powerful and spiritual lake, I would say.
Yeah, you can feel the character of the lake. Like it's like there's a living soul of the lake, and you can feel when we finished paddling the White River last summer, I think the end of the summer, and we were out on into Puckasaw, and the lake just said, "You're taking a day and a half off now. There's no question. You're not putting an open canoe on this water." So we stayed for a couple of days and just felt the power, and you could feel the spirit of the lake in the area and the history. And then when we left the final morning, you could feel the lake is breathing. It's calm. It's almost glass calm. There was a fog, but the lake is still moving 3 feet in both directions, and you're feeling it. So you never feel completely secure on Lake Superior. You got to be, head on a swivel and really looking on shore to find, okay, there's a spot that I can land if I need to. There's a spot I can land if I need to. Yeah. So we have a reverence and an awe-inspired reverence, but we also have very, very deep respect for the lake.
Yeah, so many places, and we've had James Raffin on the Backroads Bill podcast talking about Fire in the Bones and Bill Mason. We can all thank Bill Mason, an early videographer, Path of the Paddle, Paddle to the Sea, etc., about that. And I know I followed him. He was one of my inspirations a long time ago. And also, Ben, I was thinking about the producer, director of the slow video, The French River. He was on the Backroads Bill podcast.
What was his name?
What was his name? And then, of course, they're coming out with Mitch Azari. Yeah, he's been on the Backroads Bill podcast. Okay, here's a question you can think of, because I know for me, when you start out, you may know some things. We may have grown up outside. We may have grown up at a camp or cottage, and no matter how you get started in the great outdoors, Sheri, you can maybe start, or Jay, what is the one tip you want to pass on to people about camping, or some sort of camping tip? I remember when Les Stroud was on a cross-country checkup, and it was all about what things you should bring on a camping trip. I knew what he was going to say at the end. And so he said, people were talking about their tent and their sleeping bag but at the very end, he said it was the portable chair, because that's what saves your back at the end of the day. And I recount that story. But what are a couple of things that you learned on all these adventures whether it's a piece of equipment or something you learned about something? Because that's how I learn. And so I'm learning from people.
Trial and error.
Yeah, trial and error is one thing.
Plenty of errors, Bill. Plenty of errors here. One time, we were going to paddle through Bark Lake area in the Mississauga region, and we actually forgot our paddles. We got all the way to the turnoff, and we forgot our paddles. So bring your paddles for a canoe trip. So we had to drive into Espanola and buy Canadian Tire $10 paddles. So plenty of mistakes there.
I've done that before. I had to go buy a kayak paddle. Same thing. Where's my kayak paddle? Where is it? I don't know.
You're just doggy paddling through the wilderness for 20 days. Yeah. For gear, we totally agree, or I do, about the camp chairs. That's the one sort of luxury item that comes with us on all trips except hiking trips. Yeah. We'll actually forgo those on the hiking trips, but it comes on every canoe trip. They don't weigh enough to warrant leaving them in the house.
Sheri, anything comes to mind?
Something that I learned this year winter camping is that you need multiple forms of lighting a fire, because our lighter wouldn't work in the cold, and my fingers were so cold I couldn't flick it. So I always carry extra matches, and this year we got a flint striker.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's what I've learned, especially like starting out winter camping, because you get cold fast. So you need to be able to warm up.
The snowmobile is parked. The ice is melted. And suddenly, all those batteries you ignored all winter are no longer working. The boat just won't start. The ATV's not cooperating. Even the golf carts decided it's taking the season off. That's where Battery North Bay comes in. Boats, ATVs, motorcycles, e-bikes, solar systems, cordless tools, even the kids' Power Wheels. If it runs on a battery, chances are we've got it in stock and ready to go. We're locally owned, proudly serving Northern Ontario, and we ship Canada-wide. Stop by 1315 Main Street West or call 705-478-5400. Battery North Bay, powered up for every season. It's almost that time of year. Early mornings at the rink, fresh notebooks and backpacks, and a community gearing up for another great season of varsity sports. At Source for Sports North Bay, we're proud to be part of it all. Whether it's finding your kid's first pair of skates, gearing up for tryouts, or outfitting your team for the season ahead, we've got you covered. Because here, we're not just a sports store, we're neighbors, coaches, teammates, and fans. and we're proud to cheer you on every shift, step, and stride of the way. Visit Source for Sports North Bay at 1321 Fisher Street and let us help you along your way.
Now, we've had the creator of the original Bug Shirt Company and the marketing person on the Backroads Bill podcast, and we see that you wear those, you wear that attire. And so, do you want to give them a plug because you go out in all kinds of weather and all kinds of bugs. So, bugs drive people crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. So specifically, we got it after one particularly poor. Actually, it was a day we were renovating our cabin, redoing the outside, and it was just so buggy. It was end of May, and we're up in northern Algoma. So the first thing we did was research, and we found that the original Bug Shirt was actually pretty local. They're over there near you guys
in
Powassan, right? So we did some research. We bought those, and they have been a lifesaver. Those ones, we've left those behind too, thinking, oh, it's early in May.
He leaves them behind. I don't.
They
leave
weigh
them
nothing.
behind.
There's no
I'm just
reason to leave them home.
Yeah.
And I did that with just hubris and dementia,
God.
maybe. I don't know, early onset dementia.
If you have watched or get a chance to watch our Steel River trip, they were a godsend. You have to wear a ball cap under them just so you can see when you're moving. But there were so many mosquitoes on that portage. They're just so distracting. At least the bug jackets keep your mind sane so you can keep moving and get where you have to get, because I've never seen so many mosquitoes as on that trip.
Yeah, right up at the top. Just as the Diablo portage is sort of this infamous portage that kind of starts the trip off of Santoy Lake and up into Diablo Lake. Quite a climb, but the climb's not the worst part. It's actually after the climb, because that's just brute force, right? We single carry our portages, and we single carried that. But it was after that where there's a boulder field and a bunch of vegetation kind of masking it, and they're also masking a deadly number of mosquitoes. So if we wouldn't have had those Bug Shirts, I would have just turned around. I probably dropped all our gear, went back down to San Juan, and swam back to the port, put in, and gone home. That's it. No more camping.
See, that was a perfect example of the banter that you two have in your, and that's what makes it so enjoyable. And Ben can attest to this, because we've been in the studio with the original Bug Shirt Company people, and we wore our Bug Shirts, so there were no bugs except for you that day, Ben. But go ahead. I've been hogging the questions.
No, it's all good. So obviously you go on all these adventures. One of the journeys, though, that becomes a journey of itself is like obviously the video stuff with you guys going into YouTube and now navigating how do you shoot stuff while you're on site, how do you edit stuff afterwards, how do you package it, all of those interesting things. How have you noticed that when you started to film your stuff, how did your journeys change and your adventures change than before?
That's a great question. Yeah. So we started off, you could see there's quite a progression in not just production quality, but also like the style of the video through our sort of 4 years on YouTube. We started out, it was mostly just us talking in a trip vlog, more or less. We just used our phones to film. You were never going to see us, and I think still you're never going to see us do something like our friends. We have lots of friends in the YouTube community. A guy like Ben Beauchamp who makes jokes when he does talks about setting up his camera, paddling 200 meters away, and then paddling back at his camera like he's just pulling up there. I'm like, you'd have to suspend your disbelief pretty hard, but we do that, right, when we're watching these films. But that's something we won't do. But we
have two cameras, right? We have two people shooting. We're not often solo. Jay does sometimes solo camp, but so I think we're learning as we go. Sometimes, like, if you have not given me a coffee in the morning, don't put a camera in my face. Like, sometimes it gets like, I'm not ready.
Tense.
But most of the time we're pretty good at it. But we're definitely learning and progressing as we go.
Yeah, this last year, I would say it's been more so we picked up this sort of, professional camera and audio gear. And now I'm framing shots with our camera. I'm saying, sorry, Cher, do you mind putting that down and picking it back up again? I won't actually frame you properly like this. Just getting that visual, that richness of visual, and it just helps to tell the story a little bit better, and it helps to show people just how beautiful the outdoors can be. We're trying to put you there to do it, right? So
Well, I think you're being successful at doing that.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate that very much.
I was just gonna say sometimes I get lost on the trails because I'll stop to be photographing or videoing stuff around me, and Jay will be like, "Where'd you go?"
Yeah, Cher loves taking the stills, and I'm always taking video. So, but we still move pretty quickly through the world.
That kind of leads me to a question I had about this is something you see a lot in like concerts or even just when people go to any tourism place. They tend to spend almost more times videoing than they are like in the moment and experiencing something. Have you noticed that going and doing the videotaping and everything, does that take away from the journey at all? Do you find yourself not being able to like live in the moment or anything? Has it taken anything away from that experience?
I think sometimes I become preoccupied with it, and I'm always thinking of what shot to get and how to frame things. I think Sherry's a little better at.
I don't know. I would say actually it doesn't, because if a lot of times Jay single carries, and he carries the canoe generally on the portages. So for him to put the canoe down and actually video at the end or go back and video, it actually gives him an insight into what he's missed having a canoe on his head. So I guess you could look at it in two different ways. Sometimes we're maybe not present, but we're not generally like setting up the videos. We're kind of videoing as we're going.
Yeah.
So although I will tell you, if he turns that camera on and we're in a headwind, I will not be happy. So that might affect our trips.
Well, actually, there is. There in our next film about the Algoma headwaters, we paddled some pretty good headwinds, and I got some really beautiful slow-mo shots of Sheri paddling by herself against this headwind.
Well, she figured it out. When you got into the editing room for the first time, what was the shock or the thing you're like, oh, I didn't realize this about video editing or anything relating to the post-production side?
I've got a couple anecdotes about that. But so the first thing I've noticed, we started with like iMovie just on my little Mac laptop, and very, very primitive. And now we've upgraded to better software, and I do a ton of research on YouTube. What a time to be alive, right? All the collected knowledge of humanity at our fingertips. But I noticed, the one thing that I noticed the most, and Sheri actually noticed it, I had a trip video all done and ready for us to sit down and watch the rough edit, and then we pick it apart and sort of add voiceover and stuff later. And Sheri said, "Whoa, stop! Can you back that up?
No.
Can you back that up? Do you mind if I tell this story?"
No, that's fine.
So we were at Agawa North Backcountry campsite in Agawa Bay and Lake Superior Coastal Trail, and Sheri said, "Back that up." And so it turned out I shot a time-lapse video of her walking straight down a wide path to the Thunderbox and using the washroom and then coming back, and I didn't even notice.
So rule number one, I always get to review the videos before
Clearly.
they get aired.
For a reason, yeah.
Well, you also put your original music to the background.
Yeah, so I'm a sort of by trade, I'm a professional musician, touring musician and stuff. So I always noticed, like, we watched YouTube videos, to get inspiration and things like that. And I always kind of notice, oh, that's kind of generic music. That's kind of, oh, I wouldn't put that in there. That doesn't make me feel sort of the thing I would put in there. So I decided, and also we started during sort of COVID lockdowns as well. So I had nothing but time on my hands. I couldn't play shows, couldn't make recordings with my bandmates. So I just ended up starting to score all of our videos. And then that way also, all the rights are covered because it's all our original music and things like that. So, and it used to be that I would actually score each video completely front to back with all original music for that video. But since the lockdowns, thank goodness, have ended, I have less free time on my hands. So I sometimes reuse other music, but I usually typically still will have a theme song for the video that theme will keep returning through the video. But yeah, it just helps us out whenever there's any, if we're selling our videos in the future or whatever, or that we've monetized now on YouTube. We're still a very small channel, but there's no copyright issues at all.
Well, after
It
this,
also keeps him creative. Sorry,
Yeah.
it also
No,
keeps him
go ahead.
creative. So, yeah.
after the Backroads Bill podcast, but Kevin, the happy camper, Kevin Callan has said, you know, you're one of the 5 YouTube YouTubers that people should watch, because again, I think you're doing something. Now I don't want to say you know the McGuffins. They've been on the Backroads Bill podcast. What have you learned from them? And you know, just in passing, because you have your own look and feel to this. And again, I'll go back to that. I like that homegrown. I hope you never lose that, because I think, again, you can put yourself right in. You can't do that with Survivor Man. I mean, you think you might want to, but you can't do it. So that's where I'm coming from with that. But back to the McGuffins for a moment.
Yeah, we've learned so much from the McGuffins. Gary and Joni are some of the sweetest folks on earth, we think, and just so knowledgeable and so wise. And so over the past year, I guess we've developed a relationship with them. I mean, gosh, we own their books. We followed them, you know, for years and years. And so we've learned a lot about the Lake Superior watershed, just from them being part of the Conservancy. So we've learned about the lake, learned about conservation. We've learned about so many things canoeing wise.
Yeah, I would say they are one of the most graceful couples I've ever seen paddle as a tandem, just through whitewater. Like they can make their canoes stop.
Oh yeah.
And
So I'm going to tell a little story here. So it's not private. We went on a paddle with them this spring on the Gooley River, and just to illustrate just the mastery that they have of a canoe. So it was a really, really blustery day on the Gooley, high water, but not too high. So we had some pushy water, nice white caps, good standing waves that they navigate like they're just, you know, in a bathtub, right? But so the wind got so bad that it blew Gary's cap off of his head, and without us really realizing what happened, in a rapid, they turned sideways, or right at the top of the rapid, completely sideways, pulled up to the hat, picked up the hat, and then finished running the
Gary going
rapid.
down the rapid.
And
It was
Sheri and I were like, what just happened? Like, how good are these two? And like, we thought we were pretty good until we paddled with them.
No,
And
so,
we
yeah.
realized we've got so much more work to do.
They're encouraging and very graceful and very kind and warm people, and they have a lot of knowledge about the land.
About the land and about a
And
lot
the
of the
people.
places that we have paddled or want to paddle.
Mhm.
So when we just did our spring trip out to the Algoma Headwaters, well, they were actually they'd already been there. Their book, In the Footsteps of Grey Owl, I think it's called, that we also own. It's about this ancient forest trail that they followed several years ago, and Megison Lake and that Prairie Grass Lake area was all part of that. So they have knowledge of it. So we said, guys, we're going to hit you up for knowledge on that. So we sat and met with them, and they told us about a few sites around the area of significance, and told us, you know, where to get a really good shot of some beautiful footage, and showed us, hey, on page 58 of our book, you see that? This is on this lake, you know, taken from this angle at this time of day. So see if you can replicate it.
What have you learned from each of you? What have you learned about your relationship? Because camping, as I said, is a common denominator, or the outdoors. And what has that done for you over time? Because you've been together 11 years, and you're embarking on all these neat adventures. And I think that's a really kind of important question when people go outside, because it can be testy. There's no question about it.
Absolutely. I think Kevin Callan calls, is it Canoe Lake or something? He calls it Divorce Lake. Because it's like it can be so tough on there. If you're paddling with your partner, you're probably going to end up divorced. But I don't think we've ever even had a fight, a disagreement of any depth in the backcountry. We trust each other so implicitly to make the right decisions, and we're so different. Like I'm sort of rammy, is what Sheri calls it, where if we get into a tangle with I got a canoe on my head, and a 60-pound pack on my back.
I keep bars in my fanny pack.
I just start ramming through the bush and wrecking the place. And Sheri, well, Jay, you need that Snickers. It's like those Snickers commercial. You need to eat something. So she'll give me a Cliff Bar or something.
I would say, like we work together, we live together, and we trip together. And I would say since we've kind of grown into it and our skills together as a team, we do pretty well. We do like our campsites, we have divided tasks. We don't switch up. We each do our own tasks that we're good at. So we're really good organized that way. And Jay's very patient and encouraging, and I try to be the same. Like if we get tired, like we do tough trips. And we try not to giggle our way through them, but we some tough trips. And through. Yeah, if we just keep each other's morale up and get each other through safely, because that's the important thing. But I don't know if I would want to paddle in a headwind with anybody else in the stern.
Yeah, and so when I finally, found you, so to speak, I thought, oh, these are special people, and you know what? Keep up the good work. And I'm glad you're on the Backroads Bill podcast, and the Beauty of the Backcountry will be promoting. And thanks again for being on the podcast, and happy trails.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks so much for having us, and thanks for all you do for the conservation and outdoor community.
We'll be following you as well.
Okay, thank you.
So a big thank you to Sheri and Jay for coming on the podcast. It was a great chat, and I said this off the top. Jay writing the music was probably, for me, the neatest thing about this interview. Just the extra time, the attention to detail. And as Sheri said, it keeps him creative, and it keeps you in that creative space. And I think it just shows with the quality that they've put together for these videos, and just their passion, not just to be able to go outdoors and do this, but also to take the time afterwards to then document it and actually package it, which takes probably more time than the adventure did, honestly. And the music stuff, it just adds this personal touch, which I personally really appreciate, and I think it sets them apart from a lot of different channels that are doing similar things, but it sets them apart a little bit. So if you enjoyed this episode, you can find more episodes of the Backroads Bill podcast every single Wednesday on your favorite podcast platform. On the audio side, we're on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, etc. On the video side, you can find us on the North Bay Echo YouTube channel. And of course, you can find everything at northbayecho.ca, where not just the Backroads Bill podcast lives, but a bunch of other great local North Bay and area podcasts as well. So that wraps things up for Bill and myself. We will be back next Wednesday for yet another Backroads adventure.